What is up guys, Wraec is here with a new video, and today I thought we're going to go ahead and do an updated video on Star Souls. A lot of people have asked me for this because my last guide included a ton of information on how to build them and how to rank them, and a lot of in-depth build guides already for those, but it didn't include the newer Star Souls. For those we made separate videos and not everybody can find those. Sometimes we tested them in a stream, so I thought we'll do a video, put together all of the information in one, and at the same time I thought we'd try something that I haven't done yet for Idle Heroes. And that is a tier list. So we're going to do a Star Soul tier list as well. I would invite you though, before you build any Star Soul, to check out the separate part we are going to make for each and every one. We're going to go over every single Star Soul and of course talk about the advantages and disadvantages. And you should know this information before you build the Star Soul. So don't just go check out the tier list and say, well, there is a Star Soul at S tier, now I'm going to build those. Because sometimes those Star Souls will be at S tier because they are really good at PvP, but may just not be that great in PvE, where you might expect them to be good then. So definitely need to know how to work your Star Souls, how to really make them good and use them in the right builds. So when you see a Star Soul you want to build, check out the description. There will be timestamps for every single part and watch that part. Respectively, we are going to start off with a little bit of basic information about Star Souls. So if you're already familiar with it, or you already know all the information there is about Star Souls, you can skip this first part because it will probably include information that you already know. So let's start off with the basic information you need to know when you're new to Star Souls. So starting off with some basic information about Star Souls. Star Souls is a power creep that is positioned above Destiny Transition. So to access it, you will first have to basically complete Destiny Transition for the hero. If you have no idea about Destiny Transition, I would invite you to check out my guide on it. It will be linked down in the description, or you can search for Wraec Destiny Transition and it will be right there. So Destiny Transition is separated in different levels, 6 levels there are, and then you will have Nirvana. Nirvana is the highest one, and you will have the full tree and all of the abilities unlocked, and only then will you be able to use a Star Soul on that hero. To unlock your first Star Soul, you will need the Star Soul item. That can be obtained from Void Campaign or more, well, from the Ethereal Realm. Through playing Ethereal Realm, you will get shards for the Star Soul, or you can go, of course, into one of the big events, and there you can get an item like this, a Star Soul Selection Chest, and that includes the Star Soul item. They will look like this, special item. This one, for example, is for the Nova Sacred Flame Star Soul, and in the later parts of the video, we'll go in depth about which Star Soul you should choose as your beginner version. Some of the Star Soul Selection Chest may only include the first 3 ones. It is the same as with the course. The Age has not yet, or hasn't, updated all the chests in the game to include all of the shards for every single Star Soul. Most of the ones that you will find will only include the first 3. We can, for example, check this out in Void Campaign. If we go there, do I have a shard there? Wait, we can check it out right here. There we have the Star Soul shard selection chest, a Tongue Twister. And this one will only include the first 3, which isn't too bad for you as a beginner, will be alright. So this is something that you will need to first unlock the Star Soul, and at some level thresholds it will also ask you to use another Star Soul to break through to the next level. To progress your Star Soul though, and we can kind of see this for my Nova Star Soul, mostly the level is important. And the level we have right here is currently level 24 on my Star Souls. Most Star Souls can be leveled to 32 at the moment, some only to level 24. We can see this in this list, level 32 for most of the older ones here. And then we have the newer ones that are currently at level 24. The way this works is the Star Soul is normally released with a level cap of level 24, and then later on they often receive an update that allows them to kind of go into fusion with another Star Soul, which gives them an additional 8 levels that also give you 2 extra abilities that are kind of combining them or giving them synergy with another Star Soul and allowing them to kind of proc effects off of them. It is very different from Star Soul to Star Soul how much of a synergy there is. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. We can see, for example, here we have Specter, and this is referring to the Root of Confusion skill. The Root of Confusion skill, however, is a skill from the Bloom Star Soul, so we have the synergy between Bloom and Specter there. For you, the most important part is at the start, the basic leveling up process of the Star Soul. And for that, you will need ability materials. Ability materials are there for every single Star Soul and correspond to the Star Soul that you want to level. So you have to make sure you select the right ones. We have, for example, the ability leveling materials called Star Soul Essence for Specter Inquiring Mind here, which is like a fish, but there are different other ones too. That is another one. Here we have the one for Plume Time Manipulation, and usually when you get like a chest or something for it, it will have a huge list with all of the different items that there are. Here, for example, we have a Star Soul upgrade chest in the way that you would usually get them from an event as well. And you can see all of the different leveling items are included in here. You have to make sure you pick the right one. You can't use the one from Bloom, for example, to level up Nova. But then you level up your basic levels on your Star Soul, and this will unlock different abilities. It starts off with the active skills that you get with the active skill. The active skill is activated every single time the hero acts. So it doesn't matter whether it is a basic attack or an active skill. Every time your hero attacks, this effect will be triggered as well. And then it doesn't trigger when you trigger a passive skill. So it needs to be either a basic attack or an active skill to trigger this effect, and this will just be triggered on top of that. And then you always also have a Star Soul burst. This isn't unlocked immediately when you get the Star Soul, but through leveling up your Star Soul you will get to this as well. And this triggers after your hero releases the Star Soul skill 3 times in total. So trigger first time, second time, and then when the third time your Star Soul is triggered, this will trigger as well. And this is usually a stronger effect that also works in the same way. So here, for example, we have unleashes all the strength to burn all enemies, dealing massive damage to them. So you can see this is kind of like a stronger version of the base skill that you will trigger. And usually this is quite a massive hit. This is really quite good. And then you have passive skills that you unlock throughout. And you can also see something that I want to point out. You have 2 points below here. Usually, when you level your Star Soul, and we can do this right now on this example because Nova is actually a Star Soul that I can level up. What happens when you level it up is you unlock a new ability. In this case, for example, we would unlock this ability. You can see we only get 1 of the points. And this is a weaker version of the full ability. To get the maximum version, we will have to level this Star Soul a little bit further. And we can do this right now so that you see this. This, by the way, is a special level up. We go from level 24 into this area with the combined Star Souls that we just had. And you can see we use the Star Soul material, the Star Soul for Nova. And we also use one for Bloom here because we talked about this for Butterfly. We talked about this. We also had to do a quest here, which is very easy. You just have to go do an Ethereal Realm world, and we had to level the Star Soul to 24 out of 24. When we now go ahead and remold, our materials will be consumed, and we are granted. And this transfer quest is open. Is it still open? It is not. Oh, more info than I wanted to give you, but it's actually quite interesting. Yeah, we have a transfer quest open on this one, so those are all done. Which is a little bit sad that we have to cancel that now. But you have to make sure there is none of those open. So for this tutorial, I have to cancel the full transfer quest. This one hurts. But now we can remold, we can level up. This shows you what it's going to consume. We say yes, Star Soul is leveled up. And now you can see we get a stat boost. This grants a ton of speed. We have 120 speed, and yes, so keep that in mind. And we get this ability here at the basic level. And if you now go ahead and we level up our Star Soul even more, you can see right here we have our levels, and those grant us a few more stats usually and consume ability materials. We can just go ahead and do this right now. So this is one level up, gives us a few abilities, next level up. And now that we go to level 28, you will see this ability will also be leveled up. So right now we can take a look at the numbers. Usually it says 8% right here, for example, 20% right there. If we now go ahead and level it again, it will go to a 12% you can see here and 30% there. So it will give us the full version basically of this ability. Because now we reach the next cap. Now we reach the next cap, and for the next breakthrough what we would need to do is max out our Destiny Trail. We'll go in a second over what this is actually because we haven't talked about this yet. Have the Star Soul materials, do this quest, which is like just a regular ethereal world. No problem there. Won't go over this in this video, and we'll have to max the Destiny Trail. We'll show you what you need to do. It is relatively clear. The Destiny Trail itself, that it just doesn't want to show me now. Okay. Advanced Destiny Trail, okay. Yeah, it's called Advanced Destiny Trail. It says trial. There's an error in the game. We found that out. This will actually give you a ton of fixed stats. That is actually a lot. This will scale with your Awakening bonus stats. So if you have an S tier, for example, this will scale with that and give you way higher attack than you would expect. So like the 25 mil here will become a whole lot more depending on your Awakening. So this is very much so worth it if you want to increase the stats of your hero. We would have to max this out. The materials that we need for this can be obtained in two ways. The first way, of course, are events. This one we have already covered. It's a different chest you can obtain from this. We can show it for a second. It's not a big problem. Let's go into our back one more time. Where we have this, I just have to scroll. There it is. A Destiny Trail chest, and it's really is the same as with the ability materials. There's one for every single Star Soul. And of course, you have to choose the right one, and they can't be used on the other one. So for example, I can't use my Nova Sacred Flame to upgrade Specter. That just doesn't work, unless of course we are in the fusion area where we always use the materials for both Star Souls. And the other way you can actually obtain those materials is through the system here at the bottom. The system here at the bottom, those are companion heroes. And you can use any hero that you like in there, depending on the cultivation of those heroes, which is right here. They will be more or less efficient at giving you materials. So it makes sense to have kind of good heroes in there, because you can see what actually goes into that. The higher your points here that you can get. So noble sublimation 1, 2, 3, 4. If we have 4 noble sublimations from our tree of origin, it will be 24 points. So the higher tier your hero really is, the more points you get, the better the hero is, the more efficient it will be at the end, and the more material you will get. You can see the material output rate that is the full material output rate that we have. And if you have very, very good heroes in there, you will get more materials. And usually this ends up when you go into the screen, it will usually pop up. You should have seen it a few times already in this video, that it pops up and shows you, okay, you got like X amount of Destiny Trail materials. And usually for low to mid spenders and free to play, of course, as well, you won't have to go for Destiny Trail materials, because you will get them for free from the system. So definitely make sure you put this in there. You can fully complete and fully use this here and put 5 heroes in there as soon as you have the level 1 Star Soul on a hero. So it can be worth it if you have like maybe, let's say, 3 Nirvana heroes, to put a Star Soul in every single one of them, just because it enables you to put in those heroes and start collecting your Destiny Trail materials for free. For some of the Star Souls that we're going to go into, it is also pretty good to have them at level 1, because they are already great at that level. So definitely make sure you do that. And with that, we have already nearly covered all the basics. We already kind of tapped into the transfer. You can transfer your Star Soul from one hero to another. Granted, both of those will have to be at Nirvana level, and then you can transfer them over. That is not a problem. You might have to complete one of those quests. This item that you can see right here can be used to skip quests. It is rather rare and only obtained from certain events. For example, for completing Heroic Sum, usually per completion you get 1 or 2 of those. So they are in events. They are just not common enough to really be considered, well, common. It's just very annoying that they didn't put enough of those in there. But those will give you, those Star Souls will give you massive stat increases. They will be massive mechanically for your heroes, because those do really change the game, and they do enable completely new builds with existing heroes that we are going to go over and talk about in the now coming tier list for the Star Souls. Okay, so the first Star Soul that we have right here is Pupil. Pupil is one of the initial 3 Star Souls that got into the game, and that Star Souls were basically released with. Those were Pupil, Specter and Nova, and is still one of the most common Star Souls that you see in game. This Star Soul absolutely focuses on dodge and dodging attacks. Even the main skill inflicts gloomy stars on enemy with the highest attack for 1 round, and this increases the chance of the target's active skill and basic attacks being dodged by 50%. So pretty high chance that you will dodge the next attack of the enemy that is trying to attack you. There is a problem with that, and I want to point that out right for the start. This sounds good. Imagine that. You have an enemy with super high attack, it gets hit with this Gloomy Stars debuff, and the next attack that it throws out will probably not hit half your team, which was an insane reduction of the damage that a hero can put out. The problem is, nowadays, most of the damage that you will take in PvP and even in PvE in many situations is not active damage. What does that mean? Well, every single hero has active skills, basic attack, and passive skills. And for dodge, the specific thing that you want to know is that you can only dodge the damage from active and basic attacks. So the deals 1800% attack damage, that can be dodged. Same for this basic attacks that hits 3 enemies, that can also be dodged. What can't be dodged is passive damage. And for a lot of heroes, passive damage is really, really mean. I think the most common case of passive damage, or the most known one, is probably this one. A passive skill, when controlled, restores self HP and burns 3 random enemies. You will probably have been destroyed by Wraec in Void campaign before, and if you try to CC her with, let's say, a TBB, oftentimes you will end up destroying half your own team, and that is because of this damage. This can't be dodged. For no hero, the damage from passive skills can be dodged, and this kind of limits what this Star Soul can really do. On top of that, we also saw that the first skill, the Gloomy Stars, that can't be inflicted on bosses. So this part already loses quite a bit of value to that. For the Star Soul burst, we grant essentially a bigger chance of that. We have the Darkest Hideaway that is inflicted on 3 allies with the lowest HP, and this gives them a 100% chance to dodge active or skills or basic attacks. Keep in mind, it doesn't say here that this doesn't work for bosses, so you can have some weak heroes on your team, and with this Star Soul, they will dodge the hit. And in some situations, that can save them and can be the difference between them dying or not. So this, I would say, is a high value thing and a high value attack. So definitely the Star Soul burst on the better side and will work well in many boss situations. It just doesn't help you against passive damage, and this has become more common for many of the Void campaign bosses as well. I remember the first one had a counter attack. That counter attack couldn't be dodged. Or the last one, was it the last one or the one before, where you killed the units that supported him and this resulted in a huge damage explosion? Stuff like that can't be dodged. So that is something that doesn't really work. On the passive skills, we see quite a few different things. We have this Hideaway buff that we can get here that gives you a chance to dodge active skills or basic attacks. As again, it says here, dodging active skills or basic attacks, which is pretty good. It's a pretty good effect. Only works for the hero, of course, that has this equipped. Depends on who you want to use it for, but can be pretty nice value thing. It also has synergy with dodge itself. This passive skill doesn't really say whether or not this has to be from a dodge, let's say from Hideaway or something. So you could combine this with other dodge sources, which we have. Another one right here, for example. This one wouldn't work in synergy with the Star Soul because it buffs the hero with the highest attack, the ally with the highest attack, which would not be this hero. But it's interesting that this buffs dodge, by the way. The last 2 skills, interesting enough, I explained this in the basics. This is a level 32 Star Soul. It got merged with Specter. However, doesn't really have a lot of similarities with Specter on the passives. We'll see that in a second. We have another skill that synergizes with you dodging. You gain 10 energy here, which is pretty cool, or a shield. And then we have, when we have any of those buffs, for example, Hideaway, our control immunity is increased by 70%, something that I have to say I barely noticed in regular gameplay. So something that is not too insane. This is pretty insane if you have it on like level 24. Beginning of the battle inflicts Gloomy Stars on all enemies for 1 round. Increases the chance of the target's active skill and basic attacks being dodged by 50%. So Gloomy Stars the same as in our Star Soul skill, but being inflicted on all enemies this time. So pretty severe dodge. In terms of the dodge granted, if you really want to dodge hits, this is insane. Especially if you have the Star Soul on level 24, this will help you dodge a ton of damage and will give you heroes that have innately dodge, so real dodge, a synergy and give them some extra buffs. So definitely pretty cool. The reason this Star Soul is used a lot is, however, not because of any of this. This is extra. This is a bonus. This is nice. The reason people use this is for this. It has the highest attack buff out of all the Star Souls from the Destiny Trail. So we have a 42 million fixed attack buff, which is absolutely huge and allows this Star Soul to even convert heroes that are usually more of a support hero, into absolutely huge attack machines. And the higher your bonus your awakening stats are, the higher this attack buff will be. So absolutely insane, and often used in PvP, either to boost the attack so the hero does more damage, or to catch effects that hit the highest attack hero, which is something that I did more often. I just used the hero that I just didn't want to have as my main damage dealer, put the highest attack on them with Plume, and just use them as a little bit of a bait for debuffs and effects. And then my main damage dealer had like a little bit lower attack, and in PvP it doesn't matter if you have 700 or 600 million attack, the difference isn't too insane. So you can have like this hero at 700 million, then have your Wukong, let's say, at 600 mil attack, and it will still do absolutely insane damage. So that is really the main use of the Star Soul. The rest of it is kind of mid, I'll be honest. And I think with like mid skills, the Star Soul can't go to S tier. It's just not possible. We can't put the Star Soul on S tier that has mid skills, even though it grants us 42 mil. I still like it. I still see the value. I see a lot of people that tell me, Wraec, I'm dying in Star Expedition. The Star Expedition boss does pretty good damage with his hits, so you can protect your low HP heroes with the pupils, so this is pretty high value. But S tier, we are not there. I would say A tier is pretty high. It's honestly like more in the middle. I would see it more in the middle between A and B, because the skills, especially the merge stuff from Specter, we didn't really get too much of a boost with the 2 extra skills, so that had me a little bit disappointed. I would still say the 42 million, that is just in general a Star Soul that is used a lot, and that it is fairly available also from the beginning. I would say that puts it just barely at A. So next up we got Bloom. Bloom is a super interesting Star Soul, and it's mainly centered around buffs, and it's probably, honestly, one of the underrated Star Souls. Really is. So the Star Soul itself, I have it on my Wukong here, gives you buffs. And you can see there is one buff right now, is this little floating thing around my Ignis that was on my Ignis there. We can watch this one more time. Whenever the hero attacks, it basically grants out one of those buffs. Can land on the Wukong itself as well, so that is also possible. And those buffs are actually very, very interesting. Not really the blue ones, but there are golden ones too, and those are insane. Also want to point out, maybe we have to show this one more time, we also put an effect called Root of Confusion on one of the enemies, and this effect will basically do the same as Perceptual Disorder. Perceptual Disorder on Star Alchemist Thomas Young, of course, destroying active skills. This will destroy basic attacks. The buffs are underrated. It is used a little bit less than you would expect for such a Star Soul. I remember when I talked about this the first time, I gave it like pretty good rating, pretty huge standing ovation, you could say, because I thought it was like really, really great. This is the Star Soul skill. It is super long, but it basically boils down to we inflict Root and Confusion on one random enemy for 3 rounds. This changes the owner's basic attack to deal 1% attack damage to all enemies and restore self 1% of attack HP. So basically it just makes this hero with the basic attack hit all the enemies but do no damage. And we grant 1 layer of Vigor to 1 random ally. This can, however, land on Wukong. So that is possible. Quick proof for this. There we can see it's not only allies, can be himself too. Even when there are allies present, by the way. So this description is incorrect, which is good for us in this case. Vigor will give the owner of that a buff. It is fairly interesting. It won't show you which buff it is, so this is something you need to figure out. There are some insane ones in here. You can have up to 15 layers of vigors, which means you can have up to 15 buffs here. You can have the same ones multiple times, so you can have multiple attack buffs, for example, damage reduction, speed, control immunity, block, dodge, all damage dealt. Every time you get vigor, basically you get one of those buffs. And we can see when vigor is stacked up to 5 layers, we gain fulfillment. We can see in a second what that is as well. The thing that mostly keeps this out of bossing builds is that we have the speed in here. So in theory, this can grant you over 1000 speed, which is great in PvP. But the problem is if you get this in PvE, it will throw off your order of attacking and can absolutely destroy your attacking attempt. You can see, you can think about this like in a way you want some heroes to attack before your main damage dealer, let's say in SQH. To either proc a damage over time effect to synergize with the monster or to give some buffs to your hero as well. But if your main damage dealer gets all the speed buffs, now becomes faster than your support heroes, then suddenly you will deal less damage. And this is something that is so disastrous in a case that players usually avoid using Vigor in such builds, just because this speed buff is in there and could screw with their builds overall. So that is something that you have to know. The fulfillment, however, is insane. We can see the Star Soul skill over here. After it's triggered 3 times in total, grants fulfillment to one random ally and one random layer of vigor to the rest of the allies. You can only have one fulfillment effect active, and you can't have 2 of the same fulfillment effects. So this becomes relevant as soon as you have this. Allies can gain up to 3 different kinds of fulfillment effects, and the same fulfillment effect cannot be stacked. And after fulfillment reaches the max limit, cannot be obtained anymore, and we increase the value of effects enhanced by Vigor by 30%. So we can get up to 3 effects of this overall once we have upgraded the Star Soul a bit. So what kind of fulfillment effects do we have? Well, offsets the next received control effect and is immune to this control effect during the battle. So essentially, let's say enemy uses TBB, TBB twines us, the twine will be removed then, and you will be twine immune for the rest of the battle without even having an S tier. And we have the same for damage over time. Next received damage over time is offset, and you are immune to this damage over time during the battle. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. I have XT heroes that are burn immune. That are absolutely burn immune. So I, for example, used my IHP against Wraec stages. And sadly can't show you that Wraec stage right now because my Stalker missed Storm's Young and destroyed the entire Void campaign accidentally. But we have burn immunity. And this makes it so Wraec basically does no damage to my IHP. And I ran my Wukong with Bloom next to her. And he just happened to survive 3 rounds through mostly me using Oscar and getting some good dazzles going. And also using Yom Tomb to seal off the enemy's passive abilities. And this worked out so that my Wukong survived long enough to randomly give himself a fulfillment effect. And for that fulfillment effect to be this damage over time immunity. And he got burn immunity. Because the next effect he got hit with was obviously burn. He got burn immunity. And he was exactly as tanky as my IHP. Meaning he was just able to easily survive all of the hits from the Wracs. Which is absolutely insane. So you can randomly get this. Is this a reliable strategy? No, this is super low chance. You have all of those different fulfillment effects and you probably don't have a whole lot of time, but you can kind of gamble for this. If you, especially if you're on Android and you can use macro, you can just say, okay, I will use my Bloom, I will go in there, I will make a team that makes it likely that I survive multiple rounds, and you can just gamble to get this and to just be able to activate this from either fulfillment or from other ways that we can get fulfillment later on, which we can check out. So you can gamble on this, which is insane. Self has 100% chance to take 100% less crit damage, which is essentially the Ferric Investor ability makes you immune to crit damage. Crits are less important somehow. I remember people talking a lot about being crit or crit hits a few years ago in PvP, when it was all a little bit slower and less full. Now crit hits are really not a concern by many players, because we are more dealing with passive damage, and passive damage can't crit, but still, it's pretty decent. Attacks launched by self cannot be blocked or dodged. It's funny, because we just talked about Pupil. Cannot be blocked is insane, because there is still a build that you can do where you just boost your block with sigils through the roof, and this can essentially mean that you never can be blocked or dodged, so this is also absolutely insane. Extra damage, don't like that part, but the other ones are all insane in their own way. And then we have the vigor effects, and you have to keep in mind, we get a 30% boost to this through our last effect, so all of those will be boosted by 30% and give higher buffs, which is insane again. And then we have some other effects. some self-damage for Root of Confusion, not too insane. When inflicting Root of Confusion, reduces the target's energy by 50. So if you have a fast hero, we attack, we inflict Root of Confusion with our Star Soul skill right here. We just drain 50 energy, which can cause them to not do an active skill on round 1. So absolutely insane. Releases basic attack. Each target who receives the attack also has 50% chance to gain 1 layer of Vigor. This is a way for you to actually gain Vigor stacks, because this will change the owner's basic attack to deals 1% of attack damage to all enemies. Keep in mind, it's the basic attack. It is not the active skill, and it's invalid on bosses. So you can kind of work towards getting more buffs. There is one synergy here that I haven't seen too many people talk about. Well, really two ways. The first way to drain energy would be TBB, but that would also CC the enemy. There's one more way to actually drain energy that could become more common in the very near future. You can check out my Star Alchemist Storm's Young for that, and it's actually an imprint infusion that I was talking about. And it's down here in the green tree. When releasing active skill, 6% chance to inflict outburst of magic on the enemy with the most energy. Outburst of magic, skill effect for every 1 point of energy the target has, deal 10% attack damage and clears all their energy. So this basically turns your hero into kind of a carry. So carry the hero is the same effect that she has. You can put this on every single hero that can get imprint infusion. And of course then when they get their energy drained, they will do basic attack, and if they have Root of Confusion, they will give you vigor. So you can kind of scale harder into the buffs with that if you want to do that. It will work in Void Campaign as well. It won't work against bosses. But yeah. Insane Star Soul, in my opinion. Not super high boosts right there from the Destiny Trail. Not merged yet, so doesn't have the additional 2 skills. We'll have to see what happens there and what it is going to do there. I still think it is a very good Star Soul. So where does it rank? For me, not S tier. It's not too insane. S tier has to kind of enable full builds. But I think if we have Pupil on A tier, so does Bloom have to be. Also, with the kind of negative thing that I talked about, that with like the buffs, that it doesn't really work into bosses, which I see as a negative. I would also say like more in the middle between A and B. Currently still A, but honestly, with a little bit of hope that I put towards this, that it will get great extra skills when it gets to level 32. If it gets like 2 great extra skills, I say, okay, it's an A tier. But if it doesn't, I would say it drops down to B tier. It drops down to B tier. It is certainly not one of the Star Souls that you want to build immediately. Same for Pupil, by the way. It's not one of the ones that you want to build immediately. I think to really make it work well, you at least have to unlock the Star Soul Burst. And probably it would be nice to have it on 24. But I guess you have the chance to get the damage over time immunity as soon as you have the Star Soul Burst, so you don't really need it at max level necessarily for that. So that strategy would already work at that point. Interesting. So yeah, A tier for the moment, might drop down to B tier. Next up is Specter, and that is of course the GOAT! Can't say it differently. It is just the way it is. Rather boring Star Soul. I have to say it. Rather boring Star Soul, but just extremely good. So how should I say this? It is just an extremely good Star Soul. It has, well, a very complicated effect. After the hero acts each time, the enemy triggers one of the following effects. Either increases energy by 100 for the ally with the highest speed, or all damage dealt by 20% for 1 round for the ally with the highest attack, all damage reduction by 1 round for the ally with the lowest HP. And this is probably designed so that you kind of adjust your team in that way. It is not the way this is commonly used. So, I mean, all of those buffs are kind of natively already designed fairly well. Energy to the hero with the highest speed works for us. All damage dealt to the enemy with the highest attack. Okay, that works. All damage reduction to protect the ally with the lowest HP. Also great. But what you really want to do is you kind of want to have this. This is the passive that you want, this third one. When releasing Star Soul Burst or Star Soul skill, additionally grants self a buff of the same type by 50% of the original effect for 2 rounds. So basically the hero that has this Star Soul will also self buff all the time. And also the Star Soul Burst has the same effect. So after we trigger 3 times, same as always, causes all of the following effects. and those are the effects that we just talked about. So basically, after triggering the Star Soul 3 times, we will trigger all of those effects, and with this passive, we will get 50% of all of this. So 50 energy, we will get the all damage dealt, we will get the all damage reduction, so we get basically all of this. And here we always have the chance after we trigger to basically gain energy, get all damage dealt, or again all damage reduction, always 50% of those buffs. Then the next important thing is this. At the end of each round, converts one random attribute reduction into corresponding attribute buff. This is free attribute reduction purify, but also with the chance to convert this into an will convert it into an attribute buff with the chance to convert it into one more, so basically double the strength of it. So you can have like a 10% attack reduction, and it will convert it into a 10% attack buff with the chance to convert it into 2 of those buffs, so into a 20% attack buff. This is just free attribute purify, which is insane. So already that. And then we get this one. When a battle starts and at the end of each round in the first 5 rounds, increase energy by 50, all damage dealt by 20, and all damage reduction by 25 for 1 round for self and 1 random ally. And this will result in basically when we just go into a fight, we can check this out. Wait a second. Where's my LFA there? We currently have an artifact on here. I will remove that for this purpose. And when we now go into a fight against Animorph, let's just do that, because he has just like a single hero. Usually we will start with 50 energy. No artifact on this guy. Nothing that would boost his energy other than Specter, obviously. I will also remove the monster for that purpose. When we attack now, you can see he does an active skill right at the start of the battle. We have full energy from the start. And in fact, we get full energy immediately afterwards again. And this will happen for the first 5 rounds. We will just go full energy, full energy, full energy. And this allows heroes that just profit from their active skill, such as LFA, to do insane damage. And this also makes it the #1 Star Soul for your damage dealers for bosses, because this hero just doesn't rely that much anymore on the energy feed that it can get from other heroes, because you have so much self-energy feed already in that. You have a chance to gain energy from this. You gain energy from this every single time. And then you have your energy from the start in the first 5 rounds of the battle right here. On top of all of that, then you have the same self buff. You have some minor buffs right here, and you have the free attribute purify on top of Root of Confusion synergy, which is a little bit weird. But when ally takes damage from basic attack or an active skill released by an enemy with Root of Confusion, the ally has 80% chance to convert attribute reduction effects to the corresponding attribute buffs. So basically extending our attribute conversion to the entire team as long as the enemy has Root of Confusion. So we have the synergy with Bloom, Genesis Radiance, so the Bloom's Star Soul that we just covered in the part before. You want to have that on your team to kind of profit from this effect. And as I said, I kind of covered some strategies on how to drain enemy energy to get more use out of Root of Confusion. You can implement that too, so if you care about that, check out the last part about Bloom. And then we have this one, which is also fairly interesting. Gain new effects, grants the ally with the highest speed, 40% control immunity offset for 1 round. The next basic attack or active skill released by the ally with the highest attack additionally deals 3000% damage, reduces target's attack by 25%, and we have ally with the lowest HP has 100% less chance to take crit damage for 1 round. So essentially, we get more CC chance, we get more damage, we get some debuff capabilities. It's great. And this Star Soul has no effect where I scream, "Oh, that is the madness." I don't know. There's no effect where I say, okay, this is game changing, but it's just so good on every single skill. Every single skill is like an A tier, but none of these skills is really S tier. But the combination of having like so many nodes where I say, "Boy, this is great, this is great, this is mid, but this is great, this is great, this is great, this is great." This is just like too much for a single Star Soul, basically. And that makes it really good. And now we also have Destiny Trials, so you get 37.8 mil on that. And this overall just makes this an S tier Star Soul, and also the best Star Soul to start with, because this is the Star Soul that every account needs. Every single account needs that Star Soul. There's no discussion for this. There is nothing we really should claim for this. This is the most versatile Star Soul. You can put it on every single hero that you want to do a basic, an active skill on. Where if you have a main damage dealer, most of the time you really want the active skill. You get this from the Star Soul. You want them to deal a ton of damage. You don't want them to be inflicted with attribute reductions, but at the same time, you can't allow them to be controlled. So with this, you have attribute reduction purify, and you can take control purify and have both at the same time. So you are super versatile with it, and there is really, this is S tier. No question about it. It is S tier. Very, very easy. Everybody knew it. This is just the S tier Star Soul that you really, really need. Okay, next up we have Butterfly. And Butterfly is one of the ones, where I'm a little bit skeptical about. It is the Gustin Star Soul. What do I mean by that? So essentially, the Star Soul skill of this Star Soul will inflict 2 effects. It will grant 1 ally Concerto of Stars, and it will inflict Aftersound on 1 enemy. And essentially, this will work like the Gustin link, where whenever the hero with Concerto of Stars takes damage from basic attack or active skill, the target with Aftersound also takes 15% of the damage. It is in that already a little bit weaker, because this says basic attack or active skills. We already implemented in many of the other Star Souls that a lot of the damage we currently deal is passive damage. So this damage transferring stuff is really not worthwhile. It usually doesn't lead to those huge transfers of damage that you might want to see. There haven't been any nice clips with it. I have yet to see any situation in which I say, ooh, there it saved me. It also has a huge disadvantage already baked in those 4 lines. It's a super short skill with a lot of stuff that is already wrong. After the hero acts each time, this effect will be triggered, grants Concerto of Stars to 1 ally with the lowest HP. So what does that mean? It has to trigger, it will be inflicted after our hero attacks. And then it only works for 1 round. And 1 round in Idle Heroes means until the end of the round that you received this at. So if we get Concerto of Stars for 1 round, it will basically be active from the time we are granted this effect to the end of the round. And then it will be gone. So to make this work, to make this be worthwhile, you need your hero to be faster than the enemies. If your hero isn't faster than the enemies, they will grant this effect and it will run out, and the enemies have already attacked, so it won't trigger at all. So already 2 big disadvantages in this skill, 1 round, and that we have basically only the transfer of basic attacks or active skills. Not very nice. Then we have the Star Soul Burst. After triggering 3 times, we grant 2 allies with the lowest HP variation of the Meteors for 1 round, and Concerto of Stars for 1 round, and inflict Aftersound on 2 enemies with the highest attack for 1 round. And this variation of Meteors is essentially an enhanced version of Concerto of Stars. So when the owner takes control effect, attribute reduction or damage over time, we consume 1 of the layer of variation of Meteors to transfer this effect to the inflictor. This is really cool. The problem with this again is, this is also only on our hero for 1 round, meaning we need to desperately attack before the enemy with Butterfly. So our hero has to be faster. Then, after our hero was faster, the owners of the variation of Meteor that got buffed with this need to take a control effect, attribute reduction or damage over time. 1 of these will hit. The problem is, we have so many attribute reductions at the moment. And so many small effects, so many small things that hit. Let's say a 10% attack debuff, something like this. Many heroes with their Destiny transition will inflict something like this. That you are unlikely to hit any meaningful effect with this. Ideally, you would have like a TBB that was slower than your hero, but then twines, and then the twine gets reflected and you CC an enemy, and then maybe there's also Wukong that hits you with a stun and you can reflect the stun. Most of the time what you will reflect is something like a 10% attack debuff. That is the reality of this. And for that, you still have to follow this, this guideline of basically having to attack first. It is in theory nice, it is not great. If we go to the passive skills, whenever Concerto starts triggered, we restore some HP. In theory nice. Never seen this be good. Because most of the time we're no longer in that game. I think this Star Soul would have been great like 2019. When the game was still super slow and you had like 50% HP and you were waiting for your healer at that point. But now it's like you're full HP and then you're dead. And there is like no in between. So this is nothing. This heightens the amount of damage that the enemy takes from 15 to 25%. And here we have, when Concerto starts triggers, there's 100% chance to remove 1 attribute buff from the target with Aftersound. And when an ally is granted with Irradiation of Meteors, additionally remove 2 random attribute reduction effects from them. The last part is good. Some debuff removal. This upper part makes it so you don't want to use this against bosses. Common strategy, and we explored this in my video about scissors already, for the Star Expedition boss, is to let the Star Expedition boss scale up his attack or all damage dealt buff, and then copy it with the scissor artifact onto your heroes and spread it to your main damage dealer. And when you have this, it will remove those buffs and stop them from scaling. So essentially it will make it so the Star Expedition boss does a ton of less damage, but you will also deal a ton less damage because you can no longer copy those attribute buffs easily. So essentially once you get it to this level, it is dead for Star Expedition. Yeah. And then the last effect, targets of both sides affected by Star Soul skill Star Soul Burst +1 is great. And then we increase the speed of our own heroes that get like those 2 buffs and reduce the enemy speed. So the last part is also great. I think this last one is great. But does it save the Star Soul? No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. Because we have those 2 huge disadvantages. We have to attack to inflict it, and then it only lasts for 1 round. If it was 2 rounds, this would be a great Star Soul. But 1 round, I really don't see it. And then also this part with the where we only basically reflect basic attacks or active skill, it just doesn't work out. Destiny Trail isn't too insane either, and we don't have merged skills yet. Those are hopefully very, very great, but for now they don't exist, so we can't really rate them. And for me that makes it so Butterfly is substantially worse than the others. All of those, even if they have some weaker skills, Pupils has like this huge attack going for it, and still some decent skills. Butterfly has bad skills with like high requirements that you have to be faster than the enemy, which can be difficult at times, and then it doesn't give you a whole lot for that. And I think now that we have 7 Star Souls, you only have 6 heroes on your team. For your main team, this Star Soul will just go, and for that, D tier. That is really trash. It is trash. I can't really say it differently. And it's kind of sad because it doesn't need to be bad. If it were to reflect passive damage too, and would do that like really 25%, imagine like reflecting 25% of an Nova Outburst burn, that would be insane. But with this, the way it's set up, sadly a bit bad. And next up, Nova. Well, that is a really strong Star Soul, let me tell you that. We have to get into the details here, because I got some questions. Some people are still not aware on how to best make use of this Star Soul, and we definitely have to talk about optimal heroes for that. So Nova itself is all about damage. It is all about damage and all about burn. You can see the Star Soul skill right here. After the hero acts, the effect will be triggered, burns the enemy with the highest HP, dealing damage equal to 33% of self max HP for 2 rounds. So the higher the max HP of your hero, the more damage it will deal. And additionally, we burn one random enemy with Blazing Nova, dealing also 33% of self max HP for 2 rounds. Blazing Nova is inflicted through this passive. At the end of each round, inflicts Blazing Nova on 3 random enemies for 1 round. And the thing is, what Blazing Nova or Nova itself initially does is massively boost the damage output of all of your heroes. Even if you have something like Madeline here, we can probably just throw her in some fight. Doesn't really matter who we fight. We can probably fight this Team Bossanaka setup, even though those are just normal heroes. It doesn't really matter. We do our attack, if it's basic or active, doesn't really matter. We get the first hits in, and we get our burn as well after all of those enemies have done their attacks here. And once this hero would die, we would deal immense damage, but you can see this is a huge damage number. Obviously, against those enemies, we could hit a few more times. When our hero dies, we also have one insane effect. And that is the part that most people really care about, because the extra damage you get from your normal attacks and through everything, that is nice. The part that people really care about is this. When self dies, inflict Nova Outburst on all enemies, burns a target, dealing damage equal to 33% of self max HP 3 times for 3 rounds. For damage over time effects like this, the way they work is they will initially deal damage to the enemy 1 time. I want to show you this against Paukapa here, he has a very big team. I'm a bit scared of his Star Alchemist Tom's Young, because of course this is a passive skill, can be countered with Dove. So I put a scissor, Deific Scissor on my Madeline, and I want you to check out the damage that happens when she dies. Look at that. Do you see that? All of the damage here, how much HP all of those heroes have lost. And that is just like from her death itself. So you can see she never gets to attack actually against him. But still, here is some heroes at half HP. It varies a little bit of what they do. We have some heroes that even trigger Unbending Will. Maybe make it a little bit slower. There she dies. Unbending Will, Unbending Will, Unbending Will. So just being saved by Unbending Will here. And this is just one damage tick of this damage over time effect. And that is an absolutely insane passive skill. And of course, this can be used to an even further extent if you don't use it on Madeline, where I just have it. I just have it on Madeline right now to actually set the damage over time effect, to get the burn damage over time effect. But this triggers when self dies. And there are heroes in this game that can die more than once. And this does in fact work. So if you use, for example, and that is the most common one that this is being used on, an LBRM, which is a priest. Priests have higher HP, so that is good. And LBRM will force revive, I think from her last passive. I'm actually just not sure. There. When owner dies, lose one random type of mirror magic and revives at the beginning of the next round. So she can die multiple times, and every single time she dies and revives, this effect will be triggered. Or every time she dies, we should say the revive is not required for it to trigger. So we can trigger this like 3 times from her. You can even trigger this more often. Whereas this is not really meta, but it is possible. You can put it on LDA as well. It will also trigger every time he dies. And so those 2 heroes are the ones that you really want to have this on. Keep in mind, the Outburst of Magic ability that we just saw is unlocked on level 24. So this is the last ability on the regular ones that you will unlock here. So the max ability. Before you have this last ability, Nova will just do a little bit of burn and some debuffs. We do have some interesting debuff. Hero takes burn damage. We have some HP restoration here. We have some burn over there. And I think one of the passives, yeah, the Blazing Nova effect also reduces block and dodge, which is pretty cool. But it really doesn't do a whole lot outside of burn. The damage is good. Yeah, it is not super impressive, but this last bit, this effect, this is insane damage. And this triggering this multiple times is super insane damage. And then we have the 2 enhanced skills here. After your exit, Shine grants self Stellar Torch Radiance for 1 round, and when we then take damage from basic attacks or active skill, all enemies who play Nova on the battlefield take damage equal to 12% of the damage taken this time, and then 1 layer of Starfire is inflicted on them, and when this stacks to 3 layers, all layers are cleared and they take massive damage. So some extra damage that we have here. I don't have the last ability unlocked. This has a reason, I want to tell you this. You shouldn't have this last ability unlocked. Because when releasing Star Soul skill or Star Soul Burst, 40% chance to remove 1 random attribute buff effect from targets with Blazing Nova. We can inflict Blazing Nova on a boss. The problem with that is, if you want to run this Star Soul in Star Expedition, you really don't want to be able to remove an attribute buff with this. Because we have the strategy with Scissors. If you run Scissors in Star Expedition to copy the attribute buff of the boss on your own heroes and thereby boost your damage, you really want to make sure that the boss is able to stack up their attribute boosts. And with that, you would actually be able to remove them. So the way currently at the moment is to not skill this last node if you want to keep using Nova in Star Expedition. Some people would even consider an account bricked if you had this last one unlocked. I'm not sure support will help you if you have it unlocked. If you have it unlocked and you just listen to this and you think, oh my god, what have I done? I would recommend you don't use this one in Star Expedition anymore. You don't use Nova in Star Expedition. You don't use Phoenix in Star Expedition. And you instead switch back to Wolf. It will be a damage loss, yeah, compared to Phoenix with Nova, but it will still be alright. It will be better than having Nova with this unlocked and using Phoenix. So this is your solution for this. It is a little bit annoying, because this is another topic though. And when an enemy Blazing Nova dies, burns other enemies who Blazing Nova on the battlefield, dealing damage equal to 11% of self max HP. So even more damage. Really, To boil it down, we have pretty huge stats here as well, by the way. To boil it down, it's about this. It's really, it really is about this. You get damage on top, it's nice. It's about this. You want this, and then you want to put it on your LBRM or your LDA. And then it's PvP meta, because of the damage you just saw. And if you have it on LBRM, imagine the damage 3 times, when it already triggered Unbending Will just now. It is too much damage. It is OP damage. And does it work in PvE? No, it really doesn't do a whole lot of damage in PvE. So this is strictly PvP in my opinion. In PvE, the only thing people really do with it is set the damage over time effect, the burn damage over time effect, so that you can trigger your Phoenix. But you really don't use it there for damage. So it's not a good Star Soul for PvE. It is absolutely insane for PvP. And considering how meta that is, and how that everybody runs this, and that everybody should run this, LBRM with Nova and having this outburst skill unlocked, is one of the most insane things that you can have right now in PvP, and will deal enough damage to even destroy whales. So if you have like 1 or 2 people that have this on their team and that fight against me or something, then you really do die. And it's kind of the selling point of DH games for X-tier heroes. Because on X-tier they obviously put burn immunity, which will protect you against Nova Outburst, will make you immune against that. But that is really the reason why people that have X-tier heroes say they want to have burn immunity and really go for that. Just to be immune against Nova, and obviously that is also very strong. But still, nonetheless, such a big threat, such huge damage, needs to obviously go to S tier. It's my second S tier Star Soul in my opinion, and definitely an absolute monster. Next up, Netherfish. Netherfish is actually, I think, the new Star Soul, if I remember correctly. It is horribly long. It is to an insane extent does it have a long skill. I reckon right now, if you go and you ask any Idle Heroes player what this Star Soul does, nobody can give you an answer. And obviously I prepare. I don't go into this and I say, okay, freestyle, let's throw this out and do this tier list. I read these Star Souls. In fact, I read the Star Soul one more time before we go into any of these parts. And still, it is too long. It is just too long. Check this out. What craziness is this? This goes on. This is crazy. And then you have all the passive skills as well. To make it short, this is also centered around, well, 2 effects and then 2 effects again. So we have this situation first. If self has 50% or more HP, grants self-confluence for 1 round and inflicts inverse confluence on 1 enemy. For the people that have watched the part about Butterfly, they will probably have been shocked because this sounds very similar, but this one is better. It says at the beginning of each round we get those 2 effects. So it checks at the beginning of each round. If self has 50% or more HP at this point, then we grant self-confluence and inflict inverse confluence on 1 enemy with the lowest HP for 1 round. And if self has less than 50% HP, will get diffusion and inflict inverse diffusion on 1 enemy with the highest attack. Confluence will increase our all damage dealt to the target with inverse confluence by 15%, which is the enemy with the lowest HP. So could, for example, be very well used on an assassin. Those usually attack the lowest HP targets, so giving them 15% all damage dealt here, I think is very, very nice. And then we have this one, which reduces all damage taken from targets with inverse diffusion by 15%, so makes us more resistant to enemies with the highest attack. Also not too bad. On top of that, we do get different effects based on whether we have confluence or diffusion. If we have confluence, we will trigger one of the following effects at random. We'll increase the energy of the targets with inverse confluence by 100 and then trigger Outburst of Magic, which drains their energy and will deal damage to them based on the energy they had. This is why it increases their energy to maximize the damage. This is an interesting way to do it. I like the idea. Outburst of Magic still doesn't do a ton of damage, because if we check down below, it does 15% of attack damage per point of energy. So it does give us 1500% of damage on top of what the enemy already has, which is in theory quite cool. I mean, I don't hate that. the inverse confluence we have to remember is on the enemy with the lowest HP, which I always thought was a little bit weird. This effect I always thought was like a little bit better to have like on the enemy with the highest attack, but I guess draining the enemy with the lowest HP, this often a support hero will work as well. You reduces target's E-Thing of being healed is a little bit more into this assassin vibe where we can kind of destroy the enemy with the lowest HP, which I mean on round 2 could be a hero that took a little bit of damage. Usually though, all the enemies will have full HP, so it's just the enemy that natively has the lowest HP. Then we did some damage. It will last for 2 rounds. And then we did more damage. And then we have this last effect is transfers 1 random attribute buff from targets with inverse confusion to self. And afflicts 1 layer of Curse of Decay, which is the Fresto effect. So when they receive an attribute buff, they will take damage, quite substantial enough. It will be marked damage, which is pretty good as well. Because that can bypass Unbending Will, and they will not get the attribute buff. So a ton of stuff that can happen. It will trigger one of those effects, and will then we will have that, and then you have diffusion, and this will steal energy from target, will increase self-control, immunity, and damage reduction, so it's a bit more defensive. Then we have increased self-effect of being healed by 50% when self is healed, and additionally deals damage to targets with inverse diffusion, so every time we are healed. Pretty cool. There aren't too many heal effects. I mean, we don't have too many healers, but you could in theory set it up so your hero receives a ton of heals to different effects. I haven't really seen anybody play into this, but maybe we'll have to make a team. I don't know how we were to do this yet. I mean, we can probably do like, if you the lowest HP Madeline kind of get the diffusion every single time and then trigger a ton of heals on her. But then we would need like a lower awakening Madeline. Could be interesting, but this mainly deals damage when you are healed, so it's pretty cool. And then we remove 1 random attribute reduction from self, and with an 80% chance to remove 1 random attribute buff from targets with inverse diffusion. And again, this last part makes it so people don't really want to use it in Star Expedition, because we don't want to remove buffs, and we don't even want to have the chance to remove buffs, and the Star Expedition boss does enough damage to have a chance to have us trigger diffusion. So again, this sadly kills this for Star Expedition, unless you have full HP all the time. Then we have this one. Once the hero releases Star Soul skills 3 times in total, and what I mainly want to add. The first part here that gives us either confluence or diffusion is triggered at the beginning of each round. The effect that we have right here is triggered after our hero acts, so does the basic attack or active skill. So you have 2 layers in this, which is better designed than on Butterfly. So after we have that, so again, this is referring to when the hero acts. If self has 50% or more HP, grants self-confluence for 1 round and inflicts inverse confluence on 3 enemies with the lowest round. And if self HP is less than 50%, we get diffusion and inverse diffusion on 3 enemies. And the idea is essentially, you get the confluence and you inflict inverse confluence on 3 enemies. So 3 enemies will then take one of these effects. That is the idea. So that is basically what they mean by that. If the first effect of confluence triggered additionally reduces target's damage reduction by 25% and speed by 75 for 2 rounds, then we always have to check what is the first effect. First effect is this. Increases energy by 100 for targets with, and does the outburst of magic stuff. So then we get an additional buff for that. So that is always a little bit tough to see. Third effect of diffusion, however, that is the bottom one with the attribute buff. And when that triggers, we additionally reduce the target's attack by 25%. The reduction effect on all damage taken from targets with inverse diffusion is increased to 40%. Usually it is 15%. So our hero does take 15% from the enemy with the highest attack, which does get inflicted with inverse diffusion. And it's upgrade to 40%. Decent passive. All of those 4 are mid AF. All of those 3 here are mid AF because they basically don't do anything. It's like, okay, we get this. Those trigger only in 1/3 of the cases, and only when it's confluence. If we have diffusion, this is completely meaningless. And if we have diffusion and don't get the third effect, this is also completely meaningless. So really 2 absolutely dead passives in my opinion. And this one is, okay, active in 50% of the cases, I guess. And this is the same, just increase our bonus, our damage dealt. I think you can go and do like a nice assassin build. Have a hero that just attacks lowest HP. and put it on that. Or a hero that attacks all heroes, it will work on that. But some heroes, they do attack like the lowest HP, something like this. 2000% attack damage to enemy with lowest HP. I think on something like Timeplume, it could work well. Could be interesting there. It doesn't have all of those weaknesses that we saw before. It doesn't have all of the problems that we saw before. So it is a little bit easier to use in that sense. Maybe we can attack VH one more time. On some heroes, I have it just because of the stats. I have some star swords that are just equipped because I say, okay, now we have some stats there. But now a hero basically attacks. We see the little symbol over here. Wiped out VH, I think, a little bit before we could even see what happens there. And afterwards, one of the effects should be triggered. And with the Star Soul, the problem is you never really see it. Because it's just so tough to even see what happens. There we have it. That's the enemy with the lowest HP. And it just died, so it's gone now for the second. So I think VH is just like maybe a bad target for that. Let's search for a different one that maybe survives a little bit better and where the lowest HP doesn't die. But I think we also can't fight the TVB. Can't be too strong. Oh yes, the S tier TVB. Of course I check out the people with S tier TVB. That looks like we can hit it. That looks like it will survive one hit at least. So we have the PDE there. Gets hit. Some effect is triggered. It doesn't show you which, but the good thing is it at least shows you, okay, you have one effect right here. You have the other effect right there. And so you can at least distinguish where your effects land and what happens here. So it is a little bit more easier to track than most of the other Star Souls, which honestly have a bit of the problem that they have no visuals. So this one at least has a visual. It still remains hard to track what even happens there and which effect it now triggered. And obviously we had like the confluence, so it could increase energy. That one didn't happen, and targets of effect being lit I haven't seen, so I probably transferred an attribute buff and didn't have any. But I also didn't see Curse of Decay. So it's a bit of a problematic one. I think it's just like you equip it on a hero, then you forget what it does, and then you end up thinking, okay, we'll probably do something. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's like I put it on a hero and I think it's good, and I probably see it on like an assassin type, like a Tomb or something, where it always like attacks the one enemy that is then a little bit weaker to all of that. So I could see that. I could see that work out pretty well because you have like a substantial damage increase to the enemy you attack with that. Unless of course he does his Divine Retribution. I think there it is decent. It's still just so convoluted that you forget about it. It has 4 passive skills that suck. It has fairly low skills that I forgot to max out. Good that we do the video! Okay, we maxed it out now. 22.5 mil is of course nothing. So where does it land? Netherfish. I don't like it in the same way I like Bloom and Pupil. For both of those I say, okay, this is highest attack. This is like the weird thing with the damage over time effect. And this is a bunch of midness. It doesn't have the same disastrous design flaws as Butterfly. So I wouldn't say it's bad. It's still okay. Honestly, we could remove C tier at this point. But it's just the way it is. Maybe we keep it so we show the distance to Butterfly because Butterfly is really bad. But it just has not much going for it. I think if you run a PvP team and you use it as your 6th Star Soul and you put it on there, it will do well. We'll drain the energy from somebody. Maybe we can get the heal build going. I haven't seen that yet. If we get the heal build going, I'll put it in a pinned comment down below and then we will see if we can. If we get a nice build going, then I think I can take that back and I can probably put it to A tier, but I doubt it. So it will probably stick at B tier for now. Next up is Plume, Timeplume, the probably most hyped Star Soul by me. I hyped it quite a lot. As probably on the worst hero to show it right now, but it's okay. So Timeplume was one of the most anticipated Star Souls by me that we've seen so far. The reason for that is that it features shapeshifting. And before we got the Holmes Young Treasures, shapeshifting was on no Transcendence hero at all. So what it will do is, after the hero acts each time the effect will be triggered, there's a 66% chance to inflict shapeshifting on the enemy with the lowest HP for 15 rounds, and Black Hole Mark on the target for 1 round. Black Hole Mark is the mark from Wraec. It will basically collect damage as soon as it actives and then do a little bit of an explosion, which is mark damage and can bypass unbending will, so fairly nice effect. Shapeshifting turns the target into a dove, and that blocks passive skills, so you have no activation of something like, let's say, for example, Valkyr and her burn on being CC'd. It won't work with that. So keeping that in mind, very, very strong effect already there. And we get like this Star Soul burst, and after we acted 3 times, all allies will get Beyond Vision, and Beyond Vision will be invalid after any ally releases basic attacks. This in turn again means we kind of need to act before an ally, because if we don't act before an ally, yeah, well, this won't really work out. And we have a 75% chance to inflict shapeshifting on up to 2 random targets who have taken the damage respectively for 2 rounds. We inflict Black Hole Mark. It sounds good. We get this effect also. Increase the target's precision by 100%, control precision, control immunity, offset, crit rate, block. It is extra doof. We get extra shapeshifting. But the first time I saw this, I thought it's really, really good. And it turns out it is barely noticeable. It was alright when the time where we had like no Holmes Young Treasures, at that point it was good. But it's nothing you can rely on. It happens too rarely, and then it just is one effect, and you can shapeshift 2 targets, and it's okay, it can be good, and you can hit like a Valk or something in the front row because it doesn't have the same target of like lowest HP. So that is nice, but it's not like super insane. And this Beyond Vision buff is something you won't notice. Then we have some other buffs which are interesting. If Star Soul skill or Star Soul burst fails to inflict shapeshifting, increase self-control precision of inflicting shapeshifting by 40% and control immunity offset by 13%, stackable up to 3 layers. I have not yet conclusively found out if this control precision works out for Star Alchemist Holmes Young Treasures as well. I have to do testing on that. It is a theory by me at the moment. I say it like it is, because I don't want to claim it does and then be wrong about it. It is something that I test at the moment. I can say it like that. And I'm still, it's an RNG thing. But that would be insane, by the way. It's a nice passive. It's a great passive if you run it on Holmes Young, and if this would indeed work. At the beginning of each battle or at the end of each round, increase self-all damage reduction by 33%, and this becomes invalid after we got hit 1 time. So the first hit, we basically take a ton less damage. It's really nice. And then we have this one. If Star Soul skill, Star Soul burst fails to inflict shapeshifting, 50% chance to inflict Black Hole Mark on the target for 1 round. So if we don't inflict shapeshifting, we at least deal a ton of damage. Mid. This last one is insane. This was the unique one that we said, okay, this is broken. When self dies, self will revive at the beginning of the next round. Meanwhile, restores self HP equal to 100% of max HP, grants self 100 energy. This effect can only be triggered once in each battle. This allows us to put a revive on any hero that we want. And the initial one that this was used on, and this is probably still the strongest effect that we can combine, is to use an IEA. If we have an IEA and we put a revive on an IEA, we get a lot. We get indeed quite a lot. We get this part. When being killed, inflicts authority manipulation on all enemies 3 times, inflicts 3 layers of Curse of Decay on them respectively, the Forces Curse. Meanwhile, grants all allies... I've said Fresto last time. That is the AFK Journey hero. Bloody hell, it's Forces. Somebody will write a comment again. Meanwhile, grants all allies structure inversion 3 times, increasing all damage dealt by all allies to enemies with attribute reduction by 20%. And that is like already a ton of damage, because we get this Curse of Decay, which is 800% damage every single time. We get a ton of buffs for our allies already, but then we also combine it with the Nirvana, and in the Nirvana we get the last part. When self has 12 layers of transition power, consumes all of them to inflict data destruction on all enemies 3 times. Afterwards, deals 1500% attack damage to all enemies. For every debuff the target has, deals extra 1500% of attack damage. And the insane thing is, when self dies, triggers this same effect with no consumption. So when self dies, we get this effect, we get the passive, and when we run Timeplume on her, we can trigger this twice. And this, in the same way as Nova, is one of the meta damage ways in PvP right now. IEA with Timeplume and LBRM with Nova are the meta damage ways that you, or meta damage dealers at the moment in PvP, I would say. The revive itself and the effects can also be quite interesting if you run that on Star Alchemist Tom Young. There is a non-zero chance to actually do some insane stuff in PvP. I don't know if we can get this on like the first attempt. We can try it. We will fight this team, 18 billion team, with a ton of insane heroes. We will try to destroy this team with just Star Alchemist Tom Young, with this Ignis and with this core active, and we got monster equipped right now. So we'll see if this works. Okay, let's see if we can win. We got the double potion. We got bad CCs. Really bad CC on the enemy. But we got the IEA. Now we got the rest of the heroes. Very important. So we still get full hit by the IEA. I would definitely like to get one more passive skill, one more round or basic attack. The counters are going to be mean. If we can get like another potion, another blue potion right now, that would be good. We didn't. We can get it on the revive now. Revive didn't get the potion. Didn't get the potion on the basic attack either. We didn't get the potion on the basic attack. That's crazy. That sucks so much. Okay, let's see if we can win this. Got the full CC. We need to do damage now. That is important. Got the full damage. And like with the potion, even if the LFA now kills us, we would actually win this, which is crazy. So, maybe not like a very good example of this, but we get like the shapeshifting synergy. You get the extra shapeshift on Xiang, and we could actually get a revive when we get killed, and by that come back from that, and this would trigger his potion passive. So he has like this passive that grants him a potion every single round when the battle starts and this stuff, and this will also work on the revive. So that's why I currently test it here. The classic thing is the IEA. That is really the classic thing that you want to do. Then we have this part. This is more of the style that they had at the beginning. With the synergy with like the skill effects of the other Star Souls. So in Star Souls skills release offsets 25% of control immunity of targets with Blazing Nova. And they will take the Star Souls skill, so this Star Souls skill, one more time. So this is actually pretty cool, because when you now have a hero with like Nova Outburst or the Nova Star Soul on the battlefield, you have a chance to dove them. So usually this only hits one hero, but the heroes that have Blazing Nova are also hit by this. So huge synergy that is opened up by having this effect together with the hero with Nova on the battlefield. And also, of course, less control immunity for them is pretty great. When we successfully inflict shapeshifting, the target has Blazing Nova, we burn the target, dealing a ton of damage. And if the target doesn't have Blazing Nova, we inflict Blazing Nova on them for one round. So we can even get extra Blazing Nova. The thing is, this Blazing Nova won't really help us, because it will be gone by the end of the round. So it's a Blazing Nova essentially that we inflict so that the other hero with the Nova Star Soul can do more damage. That is the synergy of this. Overall, insane Star Soul. Insane Star Soul, I have to say it. And honestly, with that, goes to S tier. Goes to S tier. Because these two, Nova and Plume, are both PvP meta Star Souls with huge damage combinations. Plume has other very nice ways that we can use them. We now have a second hero where it's interesting on Star Alchemist Tom Young. Nova can always be on a hero in PvP. I would say, like, when you have PvP right now and your team doesn't have Nova and Timeplume, and you have those on your account, you are able to use them, I think you're doing something wrong. Because those two have so much power that using them is just like so blatantly obvious that you really would have needed to find an insane new combo. Now I have like news here. Okay, that was weird, that you would have needed to find an insane new combo to make this worthwhile in any way whatsoever to not use these 2 star souls. And Specter, of course, not PvP, is in there for the PvE now, makes sense. And the rest of those, I mean, we talked about this in the areas where we kind of went over all of these skills. So I think that is the tier list for now. I don't expect this to change very soon. I think the next changes that we are going to see is either Butterfly or a Netherfish. Probably Butterfly getting the additional skills. Am I hyped for this? Not really. I think Butterfly needs a rework. It needs to be made more like Netherfish, where it triggers at the start of the round. I think that would be better. It is just like too restricted at the moment to really fly. Would be good. Netherfish, I don't hate it. I just don't think it's really that great. I think it's still like more of a PvP star soul than some others. I would probably rather use Netherfish in PvP than Bloom. Even though Bloom has like some insane stuff it can do, it is a bit slow. So I would rather see that in PvP. But like overall it's so weird that I just don't like it. I mean, I said Bloom is somewhere more like here. Same for Pupil. I see them more with a gap to the S tier star souls. Those are all 3 insane. So insane that I would say if they release a star soul that is stronger than those 3, then we have a problem in game. Because already Nova and Timeplume, in my opinion, they cause problems. They're so insane that they cause problems. And Specter is just so well-rounded. None of these star souls is well-rounded in the way Specter is. So having Specter as such a well-rounded star soul puts it there. But I think Specter is at S tier and it's good. I wouldn't say Specter is like OP. I wouldn't say Specter is like bad. Specter is solid S tier. Where Nova and Plume go like to the OP end. Where they really at some point I hated it. I hate running into those bloody Nova Outburst LBRMs and IEAs with Timeplume. But it's just the meta, and you have to know this. And I hope this video helped you with it. If it did, then I would absolutely invite you to subscribe to this channel. Always helps me the most, actually. If you want to support me in any way, hit that like button, hit that comment, and if you see somebody asking about star soul information, then maybe send them this video. And at the same time, I want to point out, we will soon have anniversary, and we are going to do giveaways for anniversary, especially on SG Hub. SG Hub is your best source for starry gems in the game. You get up to a 70% discount right there. And we're soon going to run an anniversary giveaway and probably another anniversary giveaway in my live stream. So it's absolutely worth it to join SG Hub through the Discord link down in the description. And also, of course, hit that subscribe button to not miss those giveaways. Anyway, I wish you a great day. We'll see us in the next one.